come in. Okay, so no attendees yet. I'm going to go ahead and jump on Facebook Live. Okay. Going to here. Okay. Should be about to feed live on Facebook. Okay, we're live on Facebook. Awesome. Okay, that's cool. Got that going. We'll
bring up the slides.
What? I'll bring up this. I will bring up the slides in a minute. Let's see. I'm not on the screen share yet. We'll give people give the attendees a couple of seconds to get on. And watch. Here we are. All right, cool. We're all good there. Gonna close this one down. Here's a seminar. We can go here. Okay, we'll give like 2 more minutes for people to get a chance to jump on. Susan Bonanno and Taryn Martin together, about to talk about 5 things you need to know about buying a home in today's market during COVID. How do you buy a house during COVID? Big question. Lots of different things happen, but properties still are being sold. So we want to tell you exactly how that happens right now. Okay, so I'm going to drop our contact information in the chat on the Zoom. So let's do that. Do that there. And then if you're on the Facebook Live, that information will be dropped in the chat as well. Okay, we'll minimize that. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I am Taryn Martin with Sotheby's International Realty, and I'm here with Susan Bonanno of Finance of America Mortgage, and we're really excited to go over with you some of the important things there are to know about buying a home during COVID, about what's different with the market. We're going to cover 5 cool things that are interesting to know, and then you know, there's also going to be we're going to cover a lot of information and specifics, but if there's anything that you want to know that's going to apply to your specific situation, you can reach out to us and we can schedule a one-on-one and go deeper into how you are specifically impacted. Susan, do you want to introduce yourself to everyone?
Yeah, Susan Bonanno with Finance of America Mortgage. I've been doing home financing now for about 15 years, and I really like helping people get into their first home or move up or down or whatever type of home they're looking for.
Right. Very good. Okay, so let's get, I'm going to go ahead and do the screen share. So I'm going to pop over to that. Let's go share screen. Here's this. All right, here we are. Here's our slides. So again, we are covering 5 things you need to know about buying a home during COVID. Welcome to our virtual home buying seminar. We just did our introductions. Again, I'm Taryn Martin with Sotheby's International Realty. I've been in real estate since 2000. I love helping buyers and sellers meet their real estate goals in and around the Santa Barbara area. Susan Bonanno of Finance of America. I won't make you reiterate everything you just said, but she's an absolute lovely person to work with. And if you have any lending questions at all, you can reach out to her directly. She would love to meet with you to talk about your specific situation. Okay, 5 things to know about buying a home during COVID. One of the big things is what's going on with interest rates right now. And I'm going to hand that over to Susan to talk about.
Taryn, I can't see the slides.
Okay.
It just says that you've started screen sharing.
Okay, thank you for that. Let's try one more time. Let's see. Can you see it now?
Yes, but it's not exactly.
I have it on the first slide.
Right, but there's something that needs to be adjusted. It's like cut in half.
Weird. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to stop the share. Let's see, screen share. Okay, is the share off?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Let's see what's going on here. So I'm going to just minimize that. And so funny, we had, this reminds me of the last time we totally had a, all good, all good. That's the beauty of live, right? It's the beauty of live. Okay, so let's try one more time. Share screen. Let's do this. Let's do this.
Well, it still isn't correct, but I will just go ahead and talk a little bit about interest rates. So they've been in the news a lot recently. There's been a lot of, right before COVID happened, right before we really knew what was going on in mid-February, early March, rates had fallen quite a bit. And then when COVID hit, the feds actually cut their lending rate to 0. So that brought a lot of attention to interest rates in the market. And we started seeing people really pay attention. The reason that it's so important when rates are cut is that Fed rates impact consumer lending. So your credit cards and your home equity lines and the rates at which banks can borrow between themselves. That's a really helpful thing in terms of keeping the economy going. And so whenever we have trouble, they tend to do that. Not directly impacted with mortgage rates, but it's related. And kind of in the same way that recently was in the news that the price of oil had fallen to actually a negative, where people were paying other companies to bring their oil away, so because they had too much supplies. But even when that happened, when you went to go get your gas, it wasn't free. So there's things that are related, but they're not directly related. The important reason that we pay so much attention to interest rates and having really record low interest rates, the reason it matters to you is because it makes it easier to buy, whether that's on the consumer rate side, like the Fed rate cuts and the prime rate. That makes it much easier to buy cars. The mortgage rates make it much easier to buy homes. And that's why people really are paying attention right now. And that's why it's a good time to buy right now, because of the low rates. I was just listening to a economic forecast that was talking about the fact that the economists really don't expect cars and homes to be impacted in some of the negative ways due to the pandemic that some of the other industries have been impacted because of those low rates. It keeps demand high, people wanting to purchase.
Right. Thanks for all that. And I think I've got myself collected on the slides. Do you see everything on your side?
Yeah, this
Okay,
and
okay, good.
this slide is a great example of how much um, over time interest rates have changed, and the fact that we are really at a historic low. I mean, I'm not a statistician, but anecdotally, I've been doing this for about 15 years. These are the lowest rates I've seen in my career. And it just makes it so much easier when you're in the threes instead of the eights.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I remember in the early 2000s when people were going crazy about about fives,
Mm-hmm.
about the fives, and then when we see, a quarter here or there, up or down from 3.5, we start to cringe. And it's like, wait a minute, let's back up and look at historical perspective. And okay, you know what? We actually have it really good right now.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
It's hard to go wrong.
Yeah. Okay. So let's pop over to the next slide, which is also a really powerful amount of information regarding purchasing power and what happens to the home price that you qualify for when there's an interest rate change. And it's just kind of a comparison on what happens when, to your purchasing power. So you want to talk about that, Susan?
Yeah, I mean, that's the reason that it makes such a big difference is that when the interest rate is lower, you can borrow significantly more money for the same payment. So usually there are three components to purchasing power: the payment, which is linked to the interest rate, and your how much money you have to put down and how much money you can afford to pay each month. Mm-hmm. So it makes a really big difference. And you can see in this chart that when the interest rate's low, the same payment can allow you to borrow so much more, which gives you a higher purchase price possibility with the same standard of living, the same monthly payments. So it really does it makes more of a difference than purchase price. A small interest rate change can make a lot bigger of a difference than a small purchase price change. So it definitely makes it easier for people.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, if rates go up by 0.5%, that's going to change your qualifying purchase price by, in this example, almost $50,000, $45,000 in your purchase price for 0.5% to your rate.
Yeah, it really does make a big difference. And it's one of the things that a lot of my clients who were pre-approved maybe in the fall or the winter, the end of last year, are coming back and realizing that they can actually qualify for more now because the rates are lower.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. All right.
It's fun.
Yeah. Super exciting. Okay. Lending guidelines. There's a lot of new kind of rules and obviously hurdles to work through in the lending arena during COVID. So, and those are important things to know if you're considering buying or going through the mortgage process. So let's hear the rundown on that one, Susan.
I think the most common thing that people have heard on the news and people have been seeing and reading about is the whole idea of forbearance and people not having to make mortgage payments for a couple of months. That obviously is not a regular rule in the mortgage industry. Normally you have to make your payment every month. Mm-hmm. So that is a great example of how there are some temporary guidelines to accommodate for the fact that this pandemic is impacting a lot of people. The biggest thing that people are asking right now is, can I still buy if I'm furloughed? Mm-hmm. And it's really difficult to buy if you're furloughed. It's just not something you really have to wait till your income is back and stable. Mm-hmm. Same thing with unemployment. Even though you may have money coming in from an unemployment check, you cannot use that to qualify for a loan. Okay. When we qualify you, we need an income source that's going to be consistent and ongoing. So I have a client right now who wants to buy his sister's condo. She's living in it. He's living in it. He's been renting from her. She wants to sell it. Mm-hmm. He's on furlough. We have to wait until he gets his salary back. So we're doing a little longer escrow And we're going to process things once he starts getting that check again.
Mhm.
So employment is probably the biggest thing right now that we're looking at in terms of temporary guidelines. They really are trying to be careful that people do have a steady source of income.
Okay, and so say I'm furloughed and then I'm rehired. Is there an amount of time that I need to be back on the job before I'll qualify?
No,
Okay.
not at all. I mean, we just explain that, you know, there was a temporary furlough and that you're back, and then we're good to go right away. So there isn't a waiting period. It's just the waiting period is just waiting till you get back to
Okay.
work. Yeah.
Okay. And then I was gonna go back to the forbearance question. Does that, if a borrower takes advantage of a forbearance opportunity, oh dear, what just happened? Is that going to impact them if they wanted to refinance later?
It may. And so I really recommend that people consult. They have actually changed the rules several times. At first, when it first came out, they said you would not be able to refinance for 12 months after if you took advantage of the furlough. Now they're saying it's only 3 months
Okay.
delay. So, but they've been changing it, and I don't trust that it will change. It might change again. So it's just something to probably, I think it's best to consult on your individual case and talk to your servicer and look at what the current guidelines are, because I think when people first heard about it, they really thought of it as a perk, like that extra stimulus check. But
Yeah.
it's really more of something to take advantage of if you have no other options. If you have other options, it may have impact on you that you don't want. So it's just worth exploring.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. Before you take advantage of that forbearance option, look at your own situation, talk to your lender, talk to someone local, and really decide if that's the right avenue for you. We had a note about down payment options and appraisals.
Yeah, the down payment really depends on the type of loan and the size of loan. So there are still 3.5%, 5% down payment options for conventional loans, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, government loans, even 0% down still for VA loans. But other loans require 20% down. So there are still many options out there. Some of the ways that we're putting together the plan is a little different. We might have done it with one loan before COVID. Now we're doing it with 2 loans. But you know, this week I just closed one with 10% down. So it's still happening, but we just have to look at the individual situation. And in regards to appraisals, that's changed temporarily as well. Normally, the home is the collateral for the loan. And so when you purchase or even when you refi, there is a new appraisal done. And the appraiser goes out to the house, looks at the house, takes pictures, measures everything, and then compares the property to other properties in the neighborhood to decide on the value. Recently with COVID, we're not always doing that. Sometimes there's a drive-by when the pictures are just from the street. Sometimes the whole appraisal is waived. We don't even need it. Taryn, you and I just closed one today, actually, that no appraisal was required. So there's more flexibility than there normally is in the appraisal. And of course, if the real appraisal is done the traditional way, they're all wearing PPE and, you know, very careful about the process.
Right. Okay. A really big topic everybody wants to know is what's going on with prices. and the housing market. And so we have a couple of different ways to look at that. You know, the biggest question I get is, are prices going to go down? Is this a good time? Should I wait? I think, you know, most people are thinking prices are going to go down. So, you know, no one really has that crystal ball. Obviously, if we did, we'd all be super rich. Or at least, you know, I wouldn't share my secret. I would just hold my crystal ball and like, but we do have the facts of the scenario right now, and we have a historical perspective on previous recessions. So we're going to look at those two things, and you know, hopefully that'll give you a better idea of like what's actually happening. And there are also, you know, some opinions that have come in from some really smart people all around the United States, and what they're projecting to happen. So we hope this will help you. So like I said, no one has 100% certainty. Is the housing market going to crash? No one really knows, but here are the facts. There is a recession. There has been an economic slowdown, even though we are starting to see some things open up, which is very positive news. But if you look back over our last 5 recessions, we kind of have PTSD from our last big one, which was in 2008 when prices took a giant hit, almost 20%. This is for the United States. And that's what everybody remembers. You know, but if you think about the ingredients for that recession and what happened, that was more of an internal collapse rather than an external circumstance kind of thing. But if you go back over the prior recessions, most of the time we're actually increasing in value. The only other time was a slight change in 91, that was 2%, but for the most part, we're in positive territory over recession. So you know, those things considered, we are not expecting that to happen. At least, you know, as of today, that is not the expectation. You know, it talks about, you know, there's Wells Fargo made a comment in March, and with an expectation that, you know, we're going to gain momentum at the final quarter of the year, and appreciation is going to continue. You know, there was initial appreciation over the last 3 years projected over previous economic forecasts. And what's been changed is just a slightly less appreciation rate for 2020, but then it's higher for next year, and it's pretty decent for 2022 also. So, you know, yeah, we're expecting a little bit of a slowdown in appreciation for this year, but it's still an appreciation. And, you know, it talks about, you know, if we have another quote here from Ivy at the Z Report, talking about us staying in positive territory, because of, you know, and I'm going to talk about this more in a minute, record low inventory and historically low interest rates, which Susan just elaborated on. You know, basic supply and demand and a friendly lending environment makes it really appealing to make a purchase right now. And, you know, if you think about, like I just said, inventory being really low, what's actually going on in the market, like on the ground? Like those are the projections for prices, but what is actually moving? And, you know, are buyers out? Are sellers listing? What's going on? This is a graph that shows you the showing activity, which was monitored by it's a showing technology company called Showing Time, and they log the number of showings at listings. And this tells us where we were pre-COVID at the beginning of this year. It shows when COVID hit in March. It shows showings drastically falling, bottoming out really low. But then, and you know, towards the beginning of May, it recovered back to pre-COVID numbers. And locally, so this is nationally, but locally, there are a huge amount of buyers out looking and making offers. I'm seeing multiple offers at all price ranges, under $1 million, double-digit millions. People are out doing things. And additionally, there's expected to be a pent-up demand because all of the sellers who had initially anticipated putting their homes on the market in the spring, they're holding off. And a lot of buyers also kind of put the brakes on for the spring. So we're expecting all of that to kind of like come out in the summer, which it's going to be interesting. It might go, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because our peak time is usually spring, and then during the summer people are kind of doing their family vacations, and you know, so you know, we'll see what happens, but it's kind of predicted that spring is going to be the new summer in terms of peak real estate season.
And it's been interesting to see for me in this spring that because some buyers are not able to buy due to being on furlough, I've had a lot more, again, this is anecdotal, but a lot more first-time home buyers able to get their offer accepted because there was less competition for the properties that were on the market. So it seems like the percentage of people getting their offers accepted is higher because there are not as many people competing for the same property.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. We just had an experience with a lovely couple in that same kind of situation where a property might have had more their competition had it been peak spring season, you know, so those buyers were able to get in without having to compete too much. So, you know, in terms of what's going on in market activity, just to kind of sum all of that up, there is a current influx of buyers still looking, and interest rates are still low. And, you know, we had low inventory. There was record low inventory before COVID even hit, and it's even lower now. So if you look at that information, low inventory and buyers and the rates, it looks like there's even a potential for prices to rise. And it just goes back to basic supply and demand. And now we're finally at number 5. I feel like that went so fast. How are we doing this? You know, how are we doing transactions safely? That's, you know, a good question. We have had to really figure out how to, you know, embrace technology and really go the extra mile to make buyers and sellers safe and healthy, and make sure things are sanitary and we're following all appropriate rules to get these things done. One of the, you know, cool things is the amount of virtual media that's available to look at a property. So if you're hunting, you can see a lot more online than you could previously. Now, some listings did in the past have 3D tours, but now it's just exploded the number that have these 3D tours. And it's you literally get to walk through the home with your computer, and I'm going to show you an example of that right now. So give me a second while I jump off this share, and I'm going to jump onto another screen share for you to see. And you guys bear with me. I really hope I do not ruin, let's see, okay, get into, this is a really cool virtual tour. I need you guys to see how this is done. Okay, so let's make this a full screen.
And how expensive is this house we're going to look at, Taryn?
It is a beachfront, and this one costs, oh, now I'm going to have to, the price on this property is $9.9 million.
Wow.
Yeah, 9.9 million. So we get to look at a fun one. This is courtesy of Dusty Baker in my office. This is his listing. And okay, can you see this?
Yep.
All right, cool. So we are in a property on Fernald, 9.9 million, but you just drag your cursor and you get a 360 view of the entire house. You can go out onto the patio.
I want to go on the patio.
Let's go on the patio. Look at the view. Right?
Yeah.
We can go up the stairs. So this really helps to, you know, refine what you're looking at, and only look at the properties that are, you know, a good chance of being a really good fit. You know, it gives you the opportunity to thin thin it out and only look at the things that are, you know, really, really important or really close to checking all of your boxes. Like, you know, I wanted to be closer to the beach, so I know this one's not for me. I'm kidding. Okay, so this is a good example of the kind of technology that realtors are using right now to make it safe and easy for you to view a home from home. Okay, so bear with me while I change the screen share back.
And Taryn, if we look virtually and then we want to see it in person, we can, right?
Absolutely. So the next step is, if you've done all your due diligence beforehand, you've looked at whatever virtual media is available, you've scouted it out. If you want to get in, 9 times out of 10, we can make that happen for you. It depends on, you know, if it's occupied or vacant, what kind of steps need to be taken. Either way, we're gonna all show up in masks, as few people as possible. Only decision makers are going to be, you know, allowed to come in. We're going to sanitize everything top to bottom. We're going to stay far apart, and, you know, you can get in. I personally wouldn't buy a home without being able to stand in it. So I completely understand that. And we're able to make that happen most of the time. It does kind of get a little bit harder to coordinate when there's a tenant in the house, or if it's a family occupying the home, but it depends on the specific situation. But 9 times out of 10, yes, we can get you in. And there's also an opportunity for, you know, an agent to walk you through on a FaceTime and answer questions. All of that is absolutely possible. There are, you know, new rules have been implemented for realtors. We're required to adhere to certain safety protocol. The rules need to be posted at every listing. There are disclosures and affidavits that need to be signed saying, I don't think I'm sick and I haven't had, you know, we've got to sign forms for every listing that's shown. And in addition, there are, we need buyers to be pre-qualified before they can see a house. There's that extra layer of, okay, we need to be completely ready. We need to be completely qualified. Listings across the board are starting to make that as a requirement. So, you know, if you're serious and you want to start looking, it's time to go get pre-qualified so we can get you in. It's kind of out of our hands at that time, where it's like the seller's like, I need only qualified buyers for me to make all of these accommodations for someone in my home. And, you know, on the plus side, that makes it safer for you to come see a house when you know that there are less looky-loos walking through, there's less public coming through, it's only really qualified buyers, and we're taking all of these safety precautions as well.
You bring up a good point with the tenants. I have somebody in escrow right now trying to purchase a home that is tenant occupied, and because the tenants can't be forced to move out, the escrow has been delayed. And that has, you know, they still want to buy the house, but it's been a little tricky.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see how, yeah, and yeah, they're not the only ones that have had that experience. Okay, so I'm going to jump in. There's just a couple more slides. Let's see if we can get this share completed. Okay, I think we're back on. Okay, this is the pictogram that needs to be posted at every listing. Social distancing, masks, wash your hands, don't touch things. And you know, these are the rules we have to adhere to. There's also a question about buying sight unseen. No, I've done that. Pre-COVID, I've sold, you know, properties with a buyer that's living across the country that wasn't able to see it. In this situation, if you're local, but it's just not safe for you to go out, or the circumstances or the tenant, like you said, or, you know, whatever's going on, if you're not able to see the house, we can still get you an escrow on it. We can write in a contingency that's saying, you know, we write the offer, everything else is agreed on, but the contingency is that you get your in-person walkthrough at some point at the very beginning within a certain number of days. And if you walk in and decide, oh my gosh, it's not a fit, like I know for me, I'm very like energy, and I want to walk in and see, it's like this, you know, it looked good on the pictures and the virtual tour looked great, but how does it feel when I'm in it? If you walk in and you're like, I can't do it, well, your contingency is going to save you, and you can just walk away with your deposit and no harm, you know? So there is that option too. And we talked about less overall buyer traffic. Okay. Oh, and then safe closings. There are a lot of, options we have for safe closings, meaning, when you sign your loan documents, the notary, the movers. We've been using DocuSign for a really long time now, right, Susan? Our lives have been really made, I don't know, this has been a good 15 years now, I think, that DocuSign has been a thing. But these digital signature platforms allow less paper. You just click on your phone or your computer, you can sign with your finger, and we're good. All the paperwork is, hands-free. There is notary that's still needed, a live in-person notary. Susan, what's your experience with how that works?
Most of the time, the notaries have been going to people's homes and they're wearing the protective equipment, and the final loan documents do have to be signed in person and notarized. And so most people are finding it very convenient because the notary is coming to their house.
Right. Okay, cool. And we've had people ask about movers. I've got a good friend that's a mover, and he's got all his guys completely geared up. Yes, moving's allowed. They're masked, they're sanitized, they're professionals, and yes, you can get moved right now, and it can be done safely. Okay. So I'm going to stop the screen share there. And I'm just going to thank everyone who's listened. We hope that this has been informative for you, and we hope you feel really educated and have a little bit of knowledge about how it happens these days and how to buy a home during COVID. Like I said, thankfully things are starting to reopen, so that's all positive news. But I'm sure some of these adjustments are going to be closer to permanent. What do you think?
I think I'd like to buy that $9 million home on the beach.
Oh, okay. I know a good realtor. There you go. Okay, so we're going to, if you're on Facebook Live, we're going to drop some contact information in the comments for you if you want to get a hold of us. It's going to be, if you have questions about your specific situation, a one-on-one, it'll only take 15 or 20 minutes. You can sit down with Susan and talk about the finances. You can sit down with me and we can talk about property and figure out how you fit in this whole situation. If it's right for you and your family to start digging into right now, we're here to help. Just here to help inform and educate everyone. And hopefully we've done some of that today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.